versions of SkySafari, that plus and minus were on opposite corners. You had the minus over here, plus over there. And what happens if you hit plus? Yeah, there it goes. It zooms in. Hit minus, it zooms out. And this little business over here just hides the toolbar and gives you the full screen. And you can pop it back up, theoretically, and yay, it did actually work. Okay, so those are kind of the basic things that SkySafari will do. You can drag things around. You can look in different parts of the sky. If I start over here and really do a long drag, I can move, quite a ways. Some of the things you'll see, like, the constellations. Here's Orion. And I've got the horizon directions turned on, so you can see we're looking east. This yellow line is the ecliptic, where the sun and the planets are going to show up. And the constellations have their outlines, so you can kind of get a feel for the sky. If you turn the constellations off, it's all just a bunch of dots, and it's pretty hard to see your way around. And let's see, there's a couple other things you want to see. Over here, it tells you where you're looking and where the center of your field of view is. I'm at 104 degrees east and 29 degrees up. And if I click on that, a deal pops up, and I can move. If I want to look straight north, I can just click on north, and there we go. I'm looking north. Now I can click on east, on south. And I can also change from the horizon view to equatorial view, which gets rid of that artificial horizon. And now I can see the whole sky. And, that's actually, I think, is much more useful. And a little bit later, I'm going to show you how to get rid of that horizon in horizon view, because there are certain things you definitely want to do in horizon view too. And there's also ecliptic and galactic view, which aren't really very useful. They change the coordinate system, but I always just stick to horizon or equatorial. I can add more stars by clicking on this, and you see how I get more and more stars, and the minimum magnitude goes up. That's too many stars, really, though, at this magnification. One of the things that I love about this program is, as you zoom in, you get more stars. So I'm going to zoom in, and you'll see I start getting more stars appearing. And as I zoom back out, they go away and get out of my way. That's one of the really useful things about this program. And you can set that, and we'll go into that later when we get into settings. And so notice how now this is switched over to showing me my right ascension and my declination. That's because we're in equatorial mode rather than horizon mode. I go back to horizon mode, those numbers switch to my altitude and azimuth, south, altitude there, azimuth there. And then to make that panel go away, let's see, I'm going to go to equatorial mode first, and then you just click away from the panel and it goes away. Okay, now over on this other side, you've got, that is not our temperature. That is, let's see, that is the scale. We're seeing 187 degrees from edge to edge of the screen and 110 degrees up and down. If I click on that, I can rapidly change the scale by just clicking on here. This will give me 180 degrees, or 90 degrees, or 45 degrees. So I can zoom in and out. If I really want to zoom in, I can zoom into a half a degree here. And you can only see a few little things. I tend to move around at about 45 degrees. That makes the constellations look kind of normal. Right now, I am in real naked eye view. If you look at the sky, this is the way it really looks. If you are running a Schmidt-Cassegrain, you flip it horizontally, because that's the view through an eyepiece of a Schmidt-Cassegrain. You're running a binoscope, you flick it vertically, because that's the view through a binoscope. And now Orion looks kind of weird. Let's see if I can get him up there. Yeah, there's Orion. Looks like you're in the southern hemisphere, right? If I am using a Newtonian scope, I flip it both ways. The Orion's upside down and backwards. And this is the view through a Newtonian telescope. So like, I'm going to go to the Orion Nebula. One of the things you can do, see when I click on something, it highlights it. And now I can center it by clicking on center down here. And then I can zoom in. Okay, so there's the Orion Nebula. And as I keep zooming in, it's a little bit washed out. They put too bright a photo on it. But this is the view of the Orion Nebula that you're likely to see in a telescope. And so it's kind of useful to know that you can switch very quickly from naked eye view to telescope view. It's that simple. And you notice up here it says rings. I can put a 5-degree ring on, and actually you can't see it because we're zoomed in too far. So I'm going to back out. Notice that big blue ring now, that's my 5-degree field of view of my finder scope. And I'll turn on a 1-degree ring. That's the 1-degree field of an average sort of medium low power eyepiece. And if I wanted to, I could do a 1/2 degree ring, and that's sort of a medium high power eyepiece. So typically I only leave 1 or 2 rings on. If I'm using my finder, I'll turn the 5-degree ring on. Otherwise, I'll just leave the 1-degree ring on. And notice one other cool thing here, and that is the directions. It tells you what direction you're looking and which direction to go. Now watch what happens if I switch it back to none. I thought east and west were going to change. They don't. That is odd. Okay, so chalk that one up to experience. East and west stay the same on the on the field of view indicator. No, they don't. Now they've switched. All right.
North and south.
North and south switch to. Okay, there. Good. It does work the way I thought it would. Thank goodness. Okay, so those are those 2 panels there. Most people, well,
Hey, Jerry,
yeah.
how did you turn on the compass? I didn't see that.
I haven't done the compass yet.
Well, I mean the one that's in the middle of the screen.
That is up here. You click on the field of view indicator, and I just turned on the 1-degree circle. Now I'm going to have to show you how to make a 1-degree circle, and I will get to that when we get to the settings. But that's a rabbit hole that we won't drop down just yet, but we're going to get there fairly soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll leave it on just now. Okay, so I'm going to look at my notes here for a second. Let's see. Field of view circles start. Let's see. Yeah, start. Okay, so yeah, one of the other cool things about this program is, like, if I click on the Orion Nebula and highlight it, let's see, I'm going to click away for a second and then click back on it. Notice at the very top of the screen, it gives you some information there that just pops up for a second and then goes away. And that's sort of very quick information that tells you a little something about what you've clicked on. If you need more information, down here, there's this info button. Now, here's the interesting deal. The kicker is that button isn't on the menu bar when you first load SkySafari 6. You have to hit the selection button and then go up here and click Object Info. And then, okay, here's what happens when you do that. It'll take a second. It loads from memory, and it gives you just a boatload of information about the object that you're looking at, including photos. And you can expand the photo by clicking on that. And if you just click again, it goes away. And it just, with something like the Orion Nebula, page after page after page of information about it, photos, all sorts of stuff. So the info function is really, really useful for learning your way around. And any of these screens that you get that lay over the top of the actual star chart, you can make them go away by hitting the X up here in the corner, or you can get more information about how to use that function by hitting the question mark. If I hit the question mark, it loads the help file, and we can learn about how to do object info, right? So it's kind of contextually keyed to what you're doing. I'm going to make the whole work go away here. And so we're back to that. So that's something that's useful, and I will show you in a minute how to get this info thing into the command bar here, like I've done. The other thing, if you've gone from SkySafari 5 to SkySafari 6, you'll notice there's a new menu called the Observe menu. And what they've done is they've taken a bunch of stuff out of the search menu, put it in the Observe menu, and that's the stuff like, you know, planning your night's observation and observing lists, and if you want to hook your telescope up and stuff like that. So we'll get into that in a few minutes too. One thing Randy did bring up, he was talking about this as the compass, but there is also a compass mode. And this is one thing that won't work on this setup because I don't actually have a compass in my laptop computer. But if you click on that button, then what happens is you can hold your phone or your iPad or your Android tablet up to the sky and move it around, and it follows where you're looking. And so you can point it at things and it'll tell you what you're looking at. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so it'd be a little bit more likely, you know, it's going to be more realistic. So yeah, it's kind of like that. You know, if you zoom around, you can look over and say, oh, well, you know, there's the moon up above Orion. You know, and the moon's fairly easy to see, so you can kind of turn on compass mode, point it at the moon, and then move your way around and just find other stuff in the sky. And it'll tell you what you're looking at. Or if you see a bright star hanging out under Gemini and you don't know that that's Procyon, you can just turn on compass mode, point at it, and it'll show you, you know, it'll put Procyon more or less in the center of the field of view, and you'll know, okay, that's that bright star over there. Problem is, with compass mode, it uses a magnetic north rather than true north unless you tell it where you are. You have to tell it where you are, and then it will go online if you're connected, and it will find what your magnetic declination is, and it will give you true north. So let's do that. I've already told it I'm in Eugene, but now we're going to go down this rabbit hole of settings. And there's a lot of settings. I'm not going to go through them all, but the basic ones that you really need to know in order to get this program to work really well for you. So you just click on settings and it pops up. And, you know, the very first thing would be date and time. And, you know, I just tell it to use the current time. And it gets that off the internet or just off of your device's clock. But you can set anytime you want. And this is fun. We can play with this a little later. You can set it, you know, 1,000 years back, 1,000 years in the future. You can run the time in increments and watch things move through the sky. Down here, you can click on sunset and it will set the time at sunset so you can see what the sky is going to look like at sunset. Or here, let's do this. Let's do moonset. So it's going to set the time to moonset. Oh, the event does not occur? Come on, moonset occurs. Oh, this is weird. Okay, I've never got that. Okay, the end of dusk. Let's try that. All right, something's going on.
Moonset is probably after midnight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, okay. It's not going to set today. Okay. So, okay. Well, never mind. All right. Anyway, there's an easier way to set the date and time anyway, so we'll do that later. But here we go. Location is one of the things you want to set. And you can, you know, you can just say use current location and it'll try and figure out where you are. Or you can choose off of a list or off of a map if you're connected to the internet. And so like from a list, you know, one problem is it starts with the A's. So you're better off just typing in a word. So let's say we wanted to set this to Corvallis. So I can search and you just click on the little magnifying glass. There we go, Corvallis, Oregon. So now we're in Corvallis. And if I click the X, because you can look up here and it thinks we're in Corvallis. So this is very useful if you travel very far. Like if I were to go to Arizona and observe from down there, I'd want to set my time or my location so it would know where my horizon is and when things rise and set. So I'm going to go back to save choose location from list. There we go. I have a user-defined observing site of Eugene. I'll go back. Now everything should be set up the way we, so we can use it here rather than somewhere else. Other things you're going to want to play with, I can go ahead and set myself to horizon or equatorial or ecliptic or galactic through the settings here. I'm going to go to horizon mode, and we're going to go make this go away. And you'll notice, let's see, let me go up here and reduce the scale a little bit. Okay, so there's this horizon kind of getting in the way of our stars. So let's go back to appearance, and I'm going to go down to horizon and sky. And instead of showing it as a panoramic image, I'm going to just say, show it as a transparent, as transparent with a line, which means there's a line showing you where the horizon is, and that's this line, but you can see below it. So you know what's coming up. Like Canopus right now is just cresting under the horizon. We're not going to be able to see Canopus. It never quite rises. But here's Crater and Corvus, and you can tell they're going to be rising along this arc, and they're going to eventually wind up about where Sirius is in a few hours. So you can kind of tell what's going to rise by looking below your horizon. That's very useful. So even in horizon mode, I turn off the artificial horizon, and I set it this way. And I think that's something that you probably all want to do, unless you have a horizon. You can set your own horizon by taking photographs, and you can input that into the program. And then if you have a tree in the south, that tree will show up in your horizon, and you can tell if something's going to be going into the tree or something going to be coming out from behind the tree, and that can be really useful. So showing an actual panoramic image horizon is quite useful if you do your own horizon where you're actually observing. I never get around to doing that though, so not so big a deal.
Jerry, Dan left a message in chat that says if you want to demonstrate mobile device activity like compass and equipment settings, etc., he can do so just by sharing directly from his phone, which is running the software and plugged into the meeting.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, let's do that. You want to wait and do that toward the end, or you want to do that right now, Dan?
No, Jerry. Yeah, just go ahead with your presentation. But if you want to switch, I guess what I'm getting at is a lot of people will be using this on a mobile device where they actually hold it up to the sky and look around. And that's one of the things we can do on the Zoom meeting is I can switch to the view of SkySafari on my phone.
Right.
And
okay.
and follow your instructions or do a little demo. But that's all I was. I said that a moment ago while you were highlighting the finder function, the compass function.
Right. Okay. Yeah. When I'm done here, let's do that, and you can show people how that works.
Sure thing.
And also, if I remember right, you actually connect yours to your telescope. Maybe you could show us how that's done. That's something I've never done.
That's right. I use it to control the go-to function on my go-to scope. But yeah, that's a different set. And no, so if you run out of time, I'll be happy to detail that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, that'll be good. Okay. So I'm going to go on to appearance and behavior. There's a couple of options here that you probably want to use. You can set whether you use a color or a monochrome chart. Inverse monochrome chart. Boy, I'll tell you what. Look at this. It's as far as I'm concerned, not terrifically useful, but you can do it. So I'm gonna set it back to a color chart. And when we're talking colors here, there's one other button that I didn't show you down here. You can kick it into night mode. If you click on the little half moon and it says night, it just turns everything red, and it really does help save your eyesight. Basically with a backlit screen, you're looking into a light bulb, so it kills your night vision even a little bit in night mode. But night mode certainly helps more than daytime mode. And it's just a toggle. You tap it once to turn it red, tap it again to turn it back to color. So, typically when you're setting this, working outside at night with this, you get your screen as dim as possible and put it in night mode. I actually put a layer of red Mylar over it as well, just to dim it down even more. Okay, so back to appearance behavior. You can turn on ambient sound, which, okay, let's see. Last time I did this, it crashed, so be ready. Can you do it? Yeah. Can you hear it? I don't know if you guys are hearing it. But it will just play this all night long if you leave it on. So no, go back to none. I will guarantee you that's what you want. You want none, unless you're out by yourself. You can turn on sound effects, and that's kind of fun. It's one of those things that you'll enjoy for about 30 seconds, and then you'll turn it off. Watch what happens when I zoom. Let's see. Come on, sound. Oh, come on. This is one of the problems. Oh, there it goes. Okay, let's do that again. Right? So yeah, this is one of the things about running an Android emulator. It's a little slow, but yeah, you really don't want to do that. So we'll go back to sound effects and turn that off. You can have the compass turn on automatically when you tilt your phone up above the horizon. I tend to turn that off because it turns on way more often than you want it to, but you can have it do that. And this is what you click in order to make it do that. There's just a billion options. Show your coordinates in your field of view. That's those top left and top right corners I was showing you. Chart animations, this is different. If you turn it off, and then if I say select an object like Alfred, I'm just going to click on that, and then I'll say center it. Watch what happens. Boom, it just instantly centers it, right? Okay, let me go back to settings and turn chart animations back on. And let's say select Procyon and center it. Watch the difference. See how it moves down into place? And you get a feel for where things are in relation to each other. So I leave the chart animations on because I think it gives you a better feel for the sky. You learn things a little better. Things don't just magically appear, and then you wonder which direction you went from where you were before. Let's see, other settings. Let's see, are there others? Since this is a touch screen device, I have to keep clicking and touching. Oh yeah, things like in night vision, it used to not redden the keyboard. So when you go searching for things, you get this bright white keyboard. So they added that feature. Auto rotation means if you turn the phone sideways, the screen will rotate. Anybody with a phone knows how that works. I generally turn it off because it always rotates just when I least want it to. But your mileage may vary. You can turn on notifications, so it tells you when the planets are rising or if bright satellites are. Used to be iridium flares, not so much anymore. But it'll tell you, when any of these events are happening. I leave them off, but I miss a lot of ISS passes, so maybe I should turn it back on. And you can also have a do not disturb time. And this is the stupidest time to have it set to, because 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. is probably about the time you're going to be using it. But I've never bothered to change that. Okay, so horizon and sky, we went to that. Let's see, there are a couple other things I wanted to show you. Solar system. Definitely, you can tell it not to show you the planets, but I don't see any point in that. But you don't need latitude and longitude grids on the planets unless you're looking for a specific detail. So, you leave that off. Same with the axes. And I go ahead and leave phases on because that gives me the phase of the moon. Otherwise, it'll just show me a full moon all the time. And you can turn on the atmospheres or not. Venus looks kind of weird without its atmosphere. They all look weird without their surfaces. You can turn on surface labels, but that it takes a lot of processor power. so I leave that off. And the names of the planets, you know, that sort of thing. You can do things like you can show asteroids, but boy, oh boy, you know, if you do that, let me see here. Yeah, look at how many asteroids. So you have to be careful about what you select. You know, I can set the minimum magnification or minimum magnitude and cut that down. But I normally just leave the asteroids off unless I am actually looking for one, which we will do later. I want to show you something cool. You know, and again, you can turn on comets, you can turn on satellites. Now with the Iridium or not Iridium, but the Starlink satellites, you know, you do that and it's not pretty. Starlink, look at that. So, okay, so yeah, you leave that off nowadays too. Let's see, I gotta switch this up. Oh yeah, I could turn on the names of all the satellites and that would really get wiki, but we'll not do that. You can show the paths of the planets, their orbits, the orbit of the moon. You can show just the path of a selected object. You know, so you can see when a planet's going retrograde, for instance, what have you. So all of these various things you can do under the solar system settings, and you can set the magnitude limit. Here's where, you know, if I wanted to cut down on the number of asteroids or satellites or what have you, I could, you know, I could set this magnitude limit down to something more like, say, 10th magnitude or so. And now, if I go back to settings and show asteroids, there shouldn't be as many. Yeah, there's a few. We saw a few little yellow dots pop up, so that's much more functional. The thing is, these magnitude limits, that is scalable when you zoom. If I zoom in, that magnitude limit will go up, and if I zoom out, it'll go down. And that's one of the cool things about SkySafari is it tries to maintain what would seem to be a reasonable number of stars and planets and asteroids and things on the screen at any given time. The view starts showing you more of them to keep about the same number of items on the screen. So there's that. Stars, you can do the same thing. You know, I can set my magnitude limit. Never show fainter than, say, you know, if you have a scope that will only show you to 13th magnitude, you can set that never show any fainter than 13th, and those stars will just never show up. And you know, you can show the names of the brightest stars, and you can set what's called the name density, how many stars are named. Turns out about 10 to 15% is about all you want. Otherwise, you get way too many names on the screen. You can play with the symbol size. Let's do that. So this is normal size. If the stars don't really show up very well for you, you can just crank up the size. You can get them brighter and brighter and bigger and bolder. It looks really artificial, but you can spot stuff that way that you wouldn't otherwise see. So you can play with that all you like. And that scales with, I think that scales with zoom too. I'm going to set it back to 100%. Let's see, and the only way I know, let's see if this will take me back. Yeah. By the way, the back button on your phone will take you back one level, or you can hit X to go all the way back to the main screen whenever you're on one of these other screens. Color intensity is another cool thing you can do, and you know, you can crank that up as far as you want, and it's not hugely different. You can notice Betelgeuse is more orange, Pollux is kind of yellow, Castor's blue. You know, sometimes I run it up just really like when I'm looking for carbon stars and stuff, I'll run the color intensity way up so that the red stars will show up really red. Let's see. All right, I'm going to look at my notes here and make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, right. I did miss something. Up here, this one's an important one, precession. Do you want the stars to look like they are right now, which is use current epoch, or do you want them to look like they would on a star chart? Most star charts use the year 2000 as the date that they mark down the stars at. And so some stars really change their position. Let's go, okay, use current, so I've got precession set at the year 2000, and I'm going to turn off all this other stuff, nutation, well, let's see. I want to leave proper motion on. No, because what I'm going to show you, yeah, light time, I'm going to turn all these things off. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the search function. We're going to go to 61 Cygni, if I can spell. And so this, okay, I might as well kind of show you how the search function works. So obviously I typed what I wanted in the bar. It gives me two options because 61 Cygni is a double star. I'm just going to click on one or the other. It doesn't matter which. Come on, there we go. Okay, and now I'm going to center it. Okay, so it zooms over to Cygnus. So you can see this is Cygnus, and I've been, you know, the swan with his wings spread. Okay, now I'm going to go over here. I'm going to zoom way in. Maybe. Yeah, here we go. We're going to zoom in until we see the double star, 61 Cygni. Okay. So in the year 2000, this is what 61 Cygni looked like. This is one of the fastest moving objects in the sky, which is why I chose it for this demonstration. Notice where this star is, and you know, this little double and this guy out here. These two point more or less at that one, a little bit off. Okay, now I'm going to go set the, I'm going to say use current epoch, and I'm going to go ahead and turn back on all these other corrections except for aberration. These are corrections for all the various things will affect where the star appears in the sky right now. So now we go back and tell us where where 61 Cygni is right now. It doesn't even look familiar, does it? I mean, there's that little double. There's the one it was next to. There's the star that these two were pointing at just 20 years ago, 21 years ago. So 61 Cygni moved that much in 21 years. And it's important to know what you've got in your settings, because some things won't be where you expect them to be if you don't have the current epoch in your settings. So yeah, so, and that's under precession. So that's the, it's an important thing if you, especially if you're going to be moving around in time. You know, if you're going to try and find out what the Star of Bethlehem actually was, you really don't want to be using the current epoch. And let's see, oh yeah, things like formats, you know, 24-hour time and how you want it to look, stuff like that. Okay, let me look at my notes again here. Oh yeah, back down into the solar system. There's one other thing that's really cool. You know, you can tell it what all you want to see. And down here at the bottom, there's a deal below the magnitude limit. Here we go. There's a button. This is actually a button. It's a big wide bar. But if I click on that, which I'm not going to do because it'll eat up a lot of processor time, it updates all of the asteroids and satellites and planetary moons. You know, it looks for the most current information on their orbits, and it updates everything so that, you know, it will display things correctly when you tell it to use the current epoch. So for solar system objects, that's actually quite important. And if you have an internet connection live on your phone or on your gadget, it will automatically do that about once a week. But if you want to force it to do that, you click on that button and it will. You notice I forced it to do that this afternoon about 3 o'clock so that it wouldn't automatically do that during this talk. Okay, so that's the solar system settings. Stars, we showed, you know, symbol size, color intensity. I don't know that there's anything more to do there. Okay, so I'm going to scoot up and show you deep sky. You can tell it to show you the deep sky objects or not, show you images or not. So let's see, if I turn off show images and go back to the Orion Nebula. Okay, so here's two things I can do. I can either zoom out by tapping like that, or I can go up here and say, give me a 90-degree field, and boom, I've zoomed out. And that's a heck of a lot quicker. So now I'm going to scooch around over here, if it will, to the other side of the sky. And Okay, now I'm going to get this more or less centered. It's a little clumsy when you don't actually have a touch screen. I'm clicking on the mouse and moving the deal. Okay, so now, oh, yeah, I'll just go back up here and I'll zoom in to say 5 degrees. There's the Orion Nebula. And let's see, okay, center. I'm going to hit center. And now I'm going to zoom in, and you'll notice it's a lot easier to see things like the trapezium and stuff. That you don't have that photo in the way. So, so if I click on the trapezium itself and center that up and zoom in some more, check this out. There's the E and the F stars and the trapezium that we all look for when we go out on a steady night. You know, and there's the G and the H stars, which is really hard to see. When you turn off the picture, it's a lot easier to see. Let me go turn the picture back on and you can see the difference. So show images. So yeah, see, you can still see it, but it's really washed out because you're looking through the nebula. So, you know, that's one of the things to remember. You can turn off the photos if you want. You know, it makes things easier sometimes. Let's see. You guys are awfully quiet. Am I doing okay here?
Yeah, this is great.
Okay, good to hear. So
I'm
let's see.
fascinated.
I'm looking forward to you sharing. There's one function I don't know how to use, and that's the orbit function. You know, there's that view where it zooms out to outer space and shows you looking back and all that crazy stuff. That's a fun one.
I have a demonstration for that. Let me get to that in a
good.
minute.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
found a really cool thing to do with that. I want to show you a couple more things. And let's see, that would be, yeah, you can have a Milky Way that's realistic, or it'll be filled in with just a framed outline. You know, you can show the Milky Way in many different ways. I'm not going to go through all that, but that's a setting you can do. And the constellations, I have it showing them and showing them as traditional lines. If I turn off the show constellations, look what happens. It's just a bunch of stars, and you might be able to recognize things like, you know, Orion and, you know, Canis Major and stuff, but it's harder. And so I tend to leave the constellation lines on. You can turn on mythical figures. Oh, let's see, I have to turn it on first, and then I can show them as mythical figures and turn off the lines. This is fun to show people at star parties and stuff, but, you know, not really useful. But it really gives you an appreciation for, you know, astronomers of millennia, or, you know, hundreds of years ago, who had the Almagest. That was their star chart, and it looked like this. So that was how they drew it. So you know, not terrifically useful, I didn't think. But yeah, you can show modern lines versus traditional lines. They're somewhat different. And let's see, you can set to where if you tap in a constellation, it will select the constellation. But the problem with that is you wind up selecting the constellation when you're trying to select a star. So, you know, it doesn't really work out very well that way. So I don't use it. You can show the names of the constellations and stuff. Oh, Bortle would love this. You can show asterisms. You know, things like the coat hanger and stuff like that. I don't know why I leave that off, but I do. Let's see, grid and reference. This is another thing. If you tell it not to show the grid, then, you know, you really do. You just get a star field. Oh, hold on. What?
Standing on my yarn.
Oh, I'm standing on Kathy's yarn. Sorry about that. The perils of putting on a presentation with a knitter at your side.
As a fellow knitter, stop that.
Thank you.
Okay, so yes, I put grid lines on just so that I have some reference points. So in a way, it's like I know which way is north. You know, you can see how the grid, especially if I zoom out a little further. Let me zoom out to like 180 degrees. It's like, okay, now you can really see these grid lines, and you can see where north is, and you know, and if I'm in, yeah, I'm in horizon mode. As you scoot off to the side, you know, north kind of sometimes goes off to the side, right? So these horizon lines, or these grid lines, are actually quite useful for finding your way around. And let's see, actually, let me go back to one other thing as long as we're talking about that. If I set it in equatorial mode, north is always up, no matter what. And that's a good thing to know. If you kind of get lost in horizon mode, just switch to equatorial mode real quickly. North is always up, no matter how much you scroll. And, or, you know, you can look straight south. And it's just easier to find things sometimes in equatorial mode than it is in horizon mode. Although notice that our horizon has disappeared now. So the sun is just kind of standing there. I'm going to go to a 90 degree. It's hard to tell, is the sun up or down, right? Or more to the point, maybe, is the moon up or down? Let me scoot that over. You know, we don't know. Has the moon set yet? Let's go back to horizon mode. And, oh, heck no. Yeah, the moon's way up there. Oh, and if you want to know how high the moon is, bring the moon down to where it is right underneath your pointer and look up here, 53.6 degrees high. So it's still quite a ways in the sky. And so this is really useful, especially later when we start playing with time, being able to know where something is at a particular time. It's quite useful. So we'll get to that. What I'm trying to find is a lot of people have telrads. And I'm trying to figure out how do I, oh, it's here in the observe menu under scope display. Of course, that's where they put finders, right? You can turn on telrad circles. Now when I make that go away, and now let me zoom in a little bit. Let's see, I'll zoom into 20 degrees, for instance. There, telrad. And I'm going to turn off my 1 degree circle because I don't need that anymore with a telrad. So that's what your telrad view will look like. And here's the cool deal. Watch. As I zoom in, the telrad circles get bigger. And, you know, the telrad, you know, there's a 1/2 degree, and I think that's a 1 degree, and that's a 2 degree circle. And check it out. The moon is, in fact, just about 1/2 degree across. So that's one of the cool things about the telrad circles. You can use it to measure your way around. So for now, why don't I'll just leave that on because that'll be a familiar sight to a lot of people, and it's very, very useful. Let's see. Okay, so telrad circles. Yeah, okay. I'll show you where you can set these custom circles when you want to, and that's under scope display up here, custom field of view. So you can see I've got a 1/2 degree, a 1 degree, and a 5 degree field of view. That's what you saw over here. There's my 1/2 degree, 1 degree, 5 degree. So let's say your finder scope gives you 7 degrees instead of, okay, why is that not going away? Did the program lock up on me? No, okay. Sometimes it just takes a minute to think its way through. Oh, wait, no, wrong settings. We're now in the observe menu. And we're going to scope display. Right, so let's say your finder has a 7 degree field instead of a 5 degree field. I just click on that and I type, let's see if I can do this, 7 degrees. And if I hit the back button, does it do? Maybe, did it keep? Let's see, let me go back. That's one of the things that doesn't, you don't have a save button, so you just kind of hope. Okay, yeah, it says it took. Let's go see if it actually did. I could turn it on by doing those check boxes there, but I can turn it on here too. There it is, and I'll just turn that on. There's my 7 degree ring. So you can set these to whatever you want. I think when you first get the program, they're set to nothing. So you have to set something or you won't get anything when you click on these buttons. So, but that's how you do it. You go into the observe menu, and then you go into the scope display menu and let you set them up there. And okay, so obviously I'm not going to go through every setting because we'd be here all night. I'm actually about 2/3 of the way through my talk. So let's see. Let's do some things. Let's do a search for an object. And let's say I want to look for the intergalactic wanderer. So I'm going to type in intergal. Let's see if intergal is enough. It does, intergalactic wanderer. And so it pops up this information screen and a photo and all that. One of the cool things is, where is this thing in our galaxy as compared to where we are in our galaxy? If you hit the galaxy view, it shows you, okay, here's the sun, top view and side view. Here's the sun. And there's this line going out showing that the intergalactic wanderer is apparently a long ways away. So I'm going to hit auto zoom and let it show us where this globular cluster is in relation to our sun and our galaxy. Now you know why they call it the intergalactic wanderer. So I think that's just way cool. Let's see, I'm going to reset that. And let's see, I'm going to go back to the more thing. And down here, we're going to get into observing lists. So these will make sense later. Right here, if you're connected to the inner thingy, which theoretically we are since I'm doing a Zoom meeting, I can click on this and it will go to the internet and download the deep space survey image of the object you're looking at. And so this gives you a really clear picture of the globular cluster. These two stars, this one's a little double, there's another little star up there, little cluster up here, bright one over there, a smudge on the negative over there. So the neat thing about this, let's go back to the, I'm going to center the object by hitting the center button here. It's over by Gemini, Castor, and Pollux. Now I'm going to zoom in. I'm just going to keep zooming and zooming. Oh, by the way, you can zoom with your fingers too, by just putting them together and squeezing. You can do that kind of zooming too. It doesn't work very well on my laptop, so I've been just clicking on these buttons, but you can definitely do the finger trick and it works just as well. So here's the photo. Okay, I'm going to change my view so in the equatorial view, north is up. So this kind of matches the photo, right? But you can tell it's not. I'm going to click on something else just to get that word out of there, the name. And then there's a big star name now. So, but yeah, whoop, I centered it. Okay, duh. All right, here we go back. Center on that. Let's just leave it be. But these are those two stars. This one doesn't actually show as a double, but it was in the photograph. That little cluster does show up. The point being that sometimes the photograph is more useful than even SkySafari, the display. If you're connected to the internet, you can get a deep sky survey image of any object on SkySafari. You can even just click on a star and get the DSS image of that star field. So it's really useful. Very nice thing to know that you can do. Okay, next. Oh yeah, God, I totally forgot. One of the cool things you can do here. If you are used to a TORAD, you know that this circle is like 2 degrees across, the outer circle. So you kind of measure your way around the sky using that. It's like, how many degrees is it, say, from Castor to Capella? Well, in SkySafari 5, I would just double click on Capella and it would tell me. It's a little bit more complicated because people were double clicking when they didn't mean to, and it was annoying them. So they hid this in the selection menu, but you can click up here on measure from. So now we're measuring from Castor to Capella, and it's kind of hidden by the glare of Capella, but it's 29 degrees and 58 minutes away, and it's only 24 actual light years from Castor. Now, if I double click here and then move my cursor, I can measure around other things. So, there's Theta Aurigae, 119 light years, 20 degrees away across the sky. You think about, okay, if that's, that's 4 degrees across. That's 4 degrees. It's 2 degrees from center to the edge. So that's 4 degrees across. So you think, yeah, 5 of those would fit across. So that's about 20 degrees. This measurement thing, at first I thought, oh, that's not very useful. And I find now that I use it all the time just to find out how far away things are in the sky. And if you just click on anything else, it'll go away. Okay, so we got that.
One
Let's
more
see.
way,
Yeah, go for it.
one more way you can actually do that is if you click, say if you were to click on Castor and then click on Pollux and then go to the info column,
Right.
it'll also show distance from the first object to the second one.
Right. Yeah, this distance here is its distance from us.
Mhm.
If you scroll, let's see. There we go. It'll tell you how far away it is from the sun, how far away it is from the last thing you clicked, and how far it is from the center of the chart. So those are useful things that you get in the info panel. Right. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to do one other cool thing. When we were doing Galaxy View, let me go back to the Orion Nebula. Okay, so I'm going to click on it. Sometimes it doesn't actually pick, it seems to pick Mare Al-Saif rather than Orion Nebula until you zoom in a little bit. And then if I click, it clicks on the Orion Nebula, maybe. You can click again. It just sort of guesses what you want until you got it. Okay, so now let's do an info on that. It's slowing down a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to hit Galaxy View. And you can see where the Orion Nebula is in relation to us. It's very close by. And here's another thing. I can add the labels of the spiral arms. And so there's the outer arm, the Perseus arm, the Orion arm, or the Orion spur. And hey, Orion's in the Orion spur, and so are we. And then the Sagittarius arm and the Scutum Centaurus arm and the normal side. Gives you a feel for where things are in the galaxy, which I think is kind of cool. And if I auto zoom on that, it zooms in way too much. So maybe not. And I'm not sure how to do, let's see, if I do finger zooming, yeah, okay, I can finger zoom it back out. I'm just tapping my touchpad and squeezing my fingers together. So yeah, there you go. You get a little bit better feel for where it is with relation to us in the arms. So I'm going to go back and turn spiral arm labels off again and get out of that mode. That's just something, when you want to know how far away something is, you can actually look at the info deal and get a number, or you can hit galactic mode and actually see it visually, which is kind of cool. So let's see. Yeah, let's do another search. I want to show you something cool. You can search for people you know, like Mel, and ho, 2 craters and an asteroid named Bartels. Pretty cool. So I click on the asteroid Bartels, and I'll center it up. And in this field of view, it's pretty dim. But here's something I'm going to do. I'm going to go to solar system. Let's see, here we are. Whoop, I almost ran it off the screen. Solar system. I'm going to show, let's see, orbits, paths, and shadows down here. Show selected object path. Oh, no, that's the orbit. I don't want that. I want the selected object path. There we go. So I've turned it on. And now, this is what the asteroid Bartels is doing right now. It has just finished going retrograde, and it's headed back out. Let's see, wait, which dates? No. It's going the other way. Yeah, it's going this way.
Yeah.
It's just starting its retrograde, and it will finish its retrograde in June 22nd, which is like summer and beginning of summer. And then it will be heading on out into the east. And, you know, if we do an info on it, we'll see it's 18th magnitude. And even in the middle of its retrograde loop, it probably will not be bright enough to see. But let's find out. And that brings us to the time function. So in the middle of its retrograde loop, it'll be about as close as it's going to get. And that's going to be sometime in May, right? April 28th here, May 9th here. So let's say May 1st. So let's see what happens on May 1st. So first off, I hit the time field just to pop up the time panel. And then you click on, or you tap your finger on, first the month. So I'm going to go from March to April to May. Okay. And then you click on the day, and I'm just clicking the back arrow, 16th, 15th, 14th. Notice how it's moving. The sky is shifting because we're centered on the asteroid, and the sky is shifting so that, we see how the asteroid is moved. Somewhere around in there, actually, that looks like about the middle of the retrograde loop. So let's do a get info now. 17.5 magnitude. So it did get a little brighter. So, 30-inch telescope, maybe Howard Banich with his 28-inch telescope might be able to see a 17th magnitude asteroid. So Howard could actually see Mel in his 28-inch telescope by looking up, if he does it in the middle, in early May. So this is one of those cool things when there's an asteroid coming past the Earth close by, and you actually want to watch it pass. You update your minor planet orbit data so that you're getting the latest orbit data, and then you turn on this path and you can watch where it goes, and you can figure where to look when, and you can watch this asteroid move through this. Did that quite a few times back in the day with Bill Basham. Dan Rennan and I have done it a time or two. It's just a hoot. And now I haven't actually hit these buttons yet. Let's switch it by I think go down to the hour and see what happens. If I hit this button, it runs continuously. And you can see it's starting, okay, it's moving, but not very quickly. So we'll go back to the day. And tell you what, I'm going to start now. I just hit the now button and it resets. And I'm going to run it automatically. I'm going to watch the asteroid Bartels go through its retrograde loop. And it's moving a day at a time, sweeping through that loop. And then as our orbit catches up and passes it, it stops going retrograde and starts going back north, or going back east, I mean. So this is one of the cool things SkySafari will do. It not only simulates the sky now, it simulates the sky whenever, for any time you want to give it. And I think it'll go back 10,000 years and forward 10,000 years or so. Solar system orbit stuff is not going to be very accurate that far out. But stellar motions are probably going to still be pretty good. For instance, if let's see, let me go to, okay, first let me turn off all this stuff. So I'm going to turn off the show asteroids, and I'm going to turn off selected object path. Okay, yeah, so it's not as cluttered. I'm going to go up to the Big Dipper. Let's see, the easiest way for me to find it with this is just go to a 90-degree field of view and pull it down and pull it over. Okay, there's the Big Dipper. And I'm going to center on this star, Thecla, and I'm going to set it to go a year at a time. Actually, I'm going to set it to go like, let's see, whoop, not 1,000 years. Back, delete, delete. There, 100 years. Okay, we're going to go 100 years at a time. And let's see if I do that. And we're going to watch what happens to the Big Dipper. Let me zoom in just a little bit. The Big Dipper is part of the Ursa Major moving group, so most of the stars move together, but 2 of them don't. Oh, wait, stop. I'm going to stop. Oh, no, okay, would you stop? Okay, I'm gonna hit now. Yeah, what's happening is I've got precession turned on, I think. Um, yeah, let's see. This isn't doing what I wanted to do. I'm gonna set this and see what happens. 1001 years, okay, that'll do. Okay, so run it. Yeah, this I'm not expecting it to rock around this. Yeah, but okay, and here we go, here we go. Now I'm gonna stop it. That back and forth motion was the precession of the Earth's axis. And I didn't turn that off. But now notice how Alkaid has completely changed its position, and Dubhe over here has moved out. It's going to become the spatula eventually. And here's an interesting bit too. If we click on Alkaid, center that, and zoom in a little bit. Zoom to 7 degrees. Guess what's right next to Alkaid? M51. So it's going to be, let's see. Why does that say 1969? Something's really whacked out here. But yeah, when Alkaid gets close to the Whirlpool galaxy, it's going to be harder to see. This is actually thousands of years in the future, so I don't know why it's saying 1969. Chalk it up to running on an Android emulator on a Windows laptop. So anyway, I'm going to go back to now. And the sky doesn't have any Big Dipper stars in it now. So let me go back to, say, a 90-degree field of view. So anyway, that's playing with time. I love playing with time. I use it a lot. In fact, a more useful thing, let's do this. I'm going to search for planets, and I'm going to go to Jupiter. Where did Jupiter go? There it is. It's not up yet because, let me back up a second. Notice Mars is bright, Venus is dim, Earth is dim. I don't know, Earth is visible at all times, so it should be bright, right? But the brighter ones tell you which ones are visible. So Saturn and Jupiter aren't up yet. But I'm going to go to Jupiter anyway. And I'm going to center it. And we're going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom into like 1 degree field. So Jupiter is fairly large. No, I'm going to zoom in even more. Even more. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, cool. It's already happening. Io's shadow right there. And this is where time is really fun. So let me set this back to 1. Yeah. 1 year, 1 unit. Okay, but I'm going to set it to hours, maybe even minutes. Yeah, I'm going to set it to minutes and just run the clock. And let's see. Come on. I'm trying to activate that button. There we go. So there's Io and its shadow crossing Jupiter. And so you get a very good idea of when Io's shadow is going to leave. Yeah, there we go. That's the last of the shadow, about 9:44 tonight. Obviously we're not going to see it because Jupiter is real close to the sun. But if you were wondering how in the world did we get the shadow transits in the Io, back when I was doing the observing data in the Io, this is how. I just ran this, and I ran it a little faster than that, but I just watched for shadow transits. And when I'd see one, I'd check and see, is it going to be visible or not? And that's how I would do it. And so this is quite useful for figuring things out. And the red spot is actually accurate. They keep that updated when you update your minor body orbit data, it updates to red spot too. So you can find when the red spot's going to transit by doing this, just running time forward and back until you get it. Now notice that the time is actually ticking away. When I have it set to now, time is ticking. These images actually are in motion. It's just that, the pixel count is way too small for you to see it in real time. But if you leave something up on the screen and you haven't actually hit center, like if I actually just kind of scoot it over a little bit, okay, it's no longer centered. It will now just start moving across the screen, a second at a time. And if you come back 20 minutes later, it'll be gone. It won't even be there. And what might happen is, look at that, nothing. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this menu. There's nothing on the screen. And imagine you didn't even have your grid up. There'd be this blank screen and you'd be pulling out your hair trying to figure out what's wrong. You know, why don't I see any stars? Well, one thing would be to look up here, what's my field of view? It's 4.7 minutes by 2.3 minutes. There's no stars in that small a field of view. So you just back out. Oh, there it is. And there's my Telrad circle. That's my 1/2 degree and my 1 degree and my 2 degree circle, or my 4 degree, I guess you call it. So anyway, that's a warning that if you wind up with a black screen after you've been doing a big zoom, it's because the object has moved away and there's nothing in that field of view. Oh, one other warning. Let's go back and search for Mel again. In some versions of this, oh yeah, here we go, history. There we go. I have done some searching. So here's history. I can search. I can just click on it and it'll bring it up. Okay, I'm going to center it again. Okay, and there's the asteroid, and it's highlighted because I've actually got it. I've got it selected, right, and it's centered. So that's the asteroid. Watch what happens if I click on something else. I'm just going to click next to it. Asteroid goes away, and if I try and get it back, there's nothing there. It's because the asteroid is below the magnitude limit that we have set, and it only shows up if you selected it through the search function. So this is a little warning for you if you, where'd it go? Okay. Oh, there we go. Yeah, if you accidentally click on something and lose it, you have to go back through the search function and re-search for it, recenter it, and then you'll get it back. So I have no idea how many times I've done that, at least a dozen times a night. So you know, that's something to be aware of and know that you know, you can lose stuff. Okay, so let's see. What else? Oh yeah, we're going to talk about orbits. Let's do orbits. So when you select something, let's see. I did this on Albireo and it was kind of cool. Let's do that. So okay, probably the quickest way to find Albireo is to search for it. Oh, got to click on the object name. Okay, Albireo. Have a cat coming through, not throwing up, hopefully. Okay, so I'm going to click on Albireo, and I'm going to center it, and I'm going to orbit it. Now, where is the orbit setting? You know, is it? No, I've lost track. Where is orbit? Is it in?
I saw it in the info section.
Yeah, there it is. You hit orbit right here, and watch what happens. It doesn't really orbit. It leaves the Earth and it goes there. So you watch all those stars sweep through the field of view. Now we're at Albireo, and there's a little icon down here. That's the Earth, and if you click on it, it takes you back to the Earth. But we're now looking around the sky from Albireo's perspective. And let's see, let's search on Orion. What happens if we look at Orion? You can search for constellation. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to center it. Is it going to look any different? Oh boy, does it ever. Let's back out here. And let's see. Oh, you know what? I don't think my field of view works. Let's see, does it? Oh yeah, this works. Yeah, your plus and minus have changed to a zoom in, zoom out, a different kind of a zoom thing, I think. Or maybe that's motion. Well, darn it, it's not working the way I thought it would. Let's see, but yeah, that's the constellation of Orion as viewed from Albireo. It's all messed up. these are the three stars of the belt. I don't know where the nebula is. The nebula there.
I think so.
Let's see. Kathy thinks that's the nebula. Let's see.
No,
No, that's
Bellatrix.
Bellatrix.
Okay.
So, and now we've deselected. So anyway, I'm going to do another zoom. I'm going to zoom to a different star because it's kind of cool. But I love watching the stars come flying by, and as far as we know, those distances are accurate. They're using the Hipparcos data set, so that we have a very good idea of how far away these stars are. Okay, so okay, here's the one I want to show you. I'm going to go to 100, or let's see, I'll go to a 90-degree field and drop down below the horizon. Oh, let's see, I'm in equatorial mode, so it's hard to see the horizon, but that's okay. I'm going to go to this star here, Rigel Kentaurus, which we probably know more. The more common name is Alpha Centauri. It's the nearest star to us. So I'm going to orbit that, which basically means go there. And yeah, so there's Alpha Centauri A and Alpha Centauri B. It's a double star. And let's see what happens. Okay, if I hit these buttons, that zooms me in and that zooms me out so that the separation of the two stars changes. But I'm going to turn around 180 degrees. I'm going to just sweep across the sky here and keep going until we see something familiar. Maybe. Okay. I may have to zoom out in order to do it. Or you know what? I'm going to search for it. I'm cheating because I already did this once and I know where it is. Center Cassiopeia. Oh, it was way up there. Check this out. There's our W of Cassiopeia. Hasn't changed much. We've only gone 4 light years. Hasn't changed much, but there's another bright star. It makes another zig. That's where the sun would be if you were on a colony in the Alpha Centauri system looking back toward home. You would have an extra zig in the zigzag. So I just think that's totally cool that you can do that. If I had had this program when I was writing science fiction 30 years ago, my Alpha Centauri colony novel would have been even more accurate. I knew it was in Cassiopeia somewhere, but I wasn't sure where. Okay, so here we go. We go back. What else I've got? Okay, one last subject I want to go to. I'm going to talk about observing lists, because this is something that's kind of important. I'm going to go back to horizon mode, because when you're out at night actually looking at stuff, you tend to be in horizon mode because it's an accurate representation of what you're seeing. So I've created a couple of observing lists that I think become interesting. So you go into the observe menu. And by the way, if you're using SkySafari 5, you won't have an observe menu. Everything in that menu is over here under the search function. It's all still there. It's just they've moved it around. So under the observe menu, you can go up to observing lists and click on that. And I have a list of all the triplets that I am going to be writing about for my upcoming article in Sky and Telescope. Oh, here's the interesting one, the Messier Marathon that we just did a few days ago. I used this list. So let's just go, we'll do that first. So this is a list of the star or the Messier objects in the order that you want to observe them. M77 sets first and M74 very closely thereafter. And then these guys, they set after that. So you have to get over in the western sky and start observing these guys in this order. And it's very helpful to have that. But there's another cool thing you can do with observing lists, and that is you can highlight all the objects on the list. So I've clicked up here on highlight objects. You can email a list to friends. You can download all the DSS images for the objects on the list. But I'm just going to highlight the objects. And here are all the Messier objects in the sky. And now this is the interesting bit. Notice that, you know, some of them are below the horizon. This green line here is your horizon, but they're over there in the east, so they'll be rising. And over here in the west, look at that, Messier 74, and this is M77. They call it Cetus A. And as far as I know, there's no way to change the label that they choose when you select something. SkySafari chooses its own label. So sometimes it uses a label that you're familiar with and sometimes not. But yeah, Cetus A is M77. If I click on it, let's see, then up on top, it flashed M77. Or you can hit info and, oh, you know what? It hit Delta Ceti because, oops. Yeah, come on. There, Cetus A. And then now it should tell us, yeah, Messier 77. Okay. And, you know, and we get this nice picture of it, and I could download the DSS image of that if I wanted. But anyway, yeah, so here we are. We're looking over in the western sky, and these are the things you've got to look at first. You know, the Andromeda Galaxy, the pinwheel, which is M33. You got to get these guys right away because they're setting. You know, let's do this. Let's watch. If I set the hour and I just click away, there's an hour later. Next hour, by 10:30, they're gone. If you haven't gotten them by then, you're not going to have a complete Messier marathon. So, oh, and check this out. This is going to be fun. The moon is right next to the Pleiades. It's going to be really hard. You know, it's fortunate that the Pleiades is probably the brightest Messier object in the sky. The moon's rare, so you might actually still have a little bit of luck finding it. And here's a mistake. Check this out. They've got the Hyades listed as an Messier object. It's not. So it's a mistake in the list. The Hyades does not actually exist on that list. It just highlights for some reason. It's a bug. I've told them about it, and they've said, yeah. So that's just the way it's going to be.
It takes the place of M40 for some reason.
Oh, so maybe it's actually on purpose. They did that.
Yeah, maybe so.
M40 is the double star, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that must be it. Okay. So let's see, make that go away. So anyway, there's how to kind of use an observing list. You know, you can pick things off the menu one at a time, or you can highlight everything. And let's see, I'm going to go back to the screen. You see this little business here. You know, when we were in orbit mode, you saw the Earth there. And when we're in observation mode, you see this here. They basically function as undo buttons. If I click on that, maybe, come on. Hello. Oh, come on, don't tell me. All right, there it is. It just took a minute. Android was doing something. So I can show the list, or I can unhighlight everything, or I can jump from one object to the next in the list. Surprise me, it'll just take you wherever you want to go, or wherever it wants you to go. You can show the entire list in Galaxy View. I have not done this. Let's see what happens.
Oh, cool.
Those are the Messier objects. Sweet. I did not know that. I don't suppose you can click on them and figure out what's what. Oh, you can. You can. 72, 75. I'll be darned. Okay, learn something new. This is great. Okay. So, but also you can unhighlight the list and we can move on to a different list where I've prepared some cool stuff to show you, hopefully. In my test observing list, I have observed two objects. I have observed the Ring Nebula and the Dumbbell Nebula. So if I click on this, I can view and edit my observation. And my observation is just looks more like a football to me. And I observed it at 2:40 and 44 seconds this afternoon. And you know, start and end time were the same. So let's see if I type something else like, okay. I need a comma. Maybe you need to be able to type too. Maybe not. Period. If I can find it there. Okay. So now, let's see. Does it update my observation? I don't think so. I may have to back out. Let me back out of here. Go back in and see. Observing list. Test observing list. Observed objects. And go edit observation. Now, I don't know how to set the starting and ending times. Maybe I click on it. Oh, well, there you go. That's how I can click starting and ending times. So, okay, so I'm going to click now. And so I've observed it from 2 o'clock to 8:30. It's a very fascinating object. So this is sort of, one of the things you can do with observing lists. I didn't define all this stuff, but you can really keep good notes. And all this stuff is stored in the cloud. So you can access it from a different device and get your observations. That may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing, depends on how you're wired. Somebody have a comment there? No? Okay. Let's see, what else have I got?
We have a question about the actual star chart thing usual that we were in before. Can you
Okay,
real quick one more time go over setting up the declination lines?
setting the grid, how to turn it on and off, is that the question?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, turning the grid. Say again? Okay, so yeah, turning the grid on and off, you go into settings, and I think let's see, is it coordinates?
Horizon sky? No.
Let's see, horizon and sky. Maybe it's down further down. Grid, there it is, grid and reference, right there. And you can show grid or not, and you can go, horizon, equatorial, ecliptic coordinates. You can switch from one to the other over here by just clicking on this and telling it whether you want equatorial or horizon. So does that answer the question, or have I missed it?
Well, I'm in the settings and I don't see that grid choice. Is it under horizon and sky?
No, it's down below. You start at the top with date and time, location coordinates, and it's just further down under constellations. Are you running version 6 or maybe
6 on an iPad?
It should be there. If it's not, I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, there's nothing below constellations.
Are you running Pro or
No, what
Plus?
is it? Let's see this. This is
Yeah, there's different versions. That's something I didn't mention earlier. There's the
no SkySafari 6, not Pro.
okay, so yeah, you might not get that option in Pro or in there's a Plus version and then there's the basic version. And yeah, it could very well be that that's just not there in the less expensive version. I don't know. I would think that would be such a
6, Gary, Pro, and it is in the Pro edition.
Say that again now.
I do have Pro 6, and it is in the Pro 6, but apparently not in the regular 6.
Yeah, that's too bad because it's such a basic thing. You'd think they'd put that in the regular version. There might be something similar buried in one of the other menus. Try clicking up here in this corner and seeing what pops up. Maybe down in here, there's an extra thing or two. I don't know. I don't have the Plus version, so I don't know how that might work. Let's see. I did want to do, before we leave observing list altogether, I want to show you how to add other things to an observing list. So like, let's say, let's see. What have I got on my observing list? I don't want to double add something. Although you can delete things if you did. So like, yeah, okay, so ring mail, yeah, those are what I've got on my list. So let's say we're fairly close to Thor's helmet. Let's go over about where I think Thor's helmet ought to be. And you don't see it on the screen just yet because we're not zoomed enough for it to be bright enough to see. So yeah, there, I think that's Thor's helmet. Why did it pick the cluster there? Yeah, they call it the Duck Nebula, but if you do a get info, it's Duck Nebula, Thor's helmet. This is a beautiful, beautiful object in a fairly large telescope. So things you can do. Let's see. It might be listed under more. Yeah, add to observing list. So I can do it that way, or I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to just center it up, just so that we know what we're talking about. As long as it's selected, it doesn't need to be centered. But now I can go to the observe menu, and I believe, okay, maybe I'm lying here, thinking, no, I can't add it. I guess the only way to add it is through the info menu. All right, learning all the time. So yeah, you go over here on more, and you say add to observing list. And then it'll ask you which one, and I'm going to go test observing list.
Jerry,
And it says add it to the observing list. Yeah,
you can add by hitting select.
you can.
Hit
Okay, so let's see.
over here.
So if I,
Selection.
so how would I do that?
You hit selection.
Selection, all right, I've forgotten. And there you go, add to observing list. Okay, very good, thank you. I did not know that. Or if I did, I forgot it. Oh, here's another interesting thing. Graph object, what the heck does that mean? You hit that, and it shows you when the sun rises and sets, and when it gets dark, when the moon rises and sets, and when the Duck Nebula, or Thor's helmet, rises and sets. So, you know, it's going to be kind of hard to get a good view of this nebula because it's going to be setting not long after the moon. But it gives you an idea of the visibility of an object on any given night. So actually kind of useful. I didn't really play with that until today. In fact, when I was thinking, what is that? So let's see. Oh yeah, and I can create a new observation of the Duck Nebula. And you know, so I can just type my comments in here and it will go into, well, let's see. Let's just see if it does. I'm just going to type the word test here and see, does it go into that observing list? So, okay, now I'm going to go to the observing list, go to that, go to test, go to duck. Oh, you know, it's not check marked, so I don't think it goes into that observing list. Yeah. So let me go back. Let's see, back. Back. Okay, I'm going to hit selection again. Create new, add to, okay. Show observations, there we go. Yeah, and it's sort of a general observation. Yeah, there's my test. So yeah, you have to play with it a little bit to make sure that you're adding your observation to the correct observing list, which I probably skipped some crucial step there.
Can you, when you were in that list, it looked like there was a place to choose what list to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. This one maybe?
Yeah, well, when you were in that, and then when you clicked on it, like when you were, when you were editing.
Okay, let's see. Oh, right. Okay, so show observations.
Observations.
There.
Click on that. And then down there, observing list, it says none. Can you click on that and add it?
Oh, yeah, let's see what happens. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Oh, wait, test observing list. There we go. All right, let me make it go away. And now let's go to the test observing list and see if it's there. Learning all the time. Look at that. Look at that. It's checked. If I click on it and view my observation, there it is. Okay, we learned something today. Thank
For
you.
me, which is scary.
No, you know, it's keeping your eyes open as these menus are flying by. Okay, so the only other thing, does anybody have SkySafari 5 and still using that. I have that listed, or I have that loaded too, and I can show you the
I
difference.
do.
So would you like to see the difference between 5 and 6? I guess you're probably pretty familiar with it if you were using it already, right?
I have 5 and Annette has 6,
Okay.
but she has the freebie version and I have Pro, so
Okay.
be different.
So, you know what? I'm looking at the clock and I'm thinking rather than do a demo of 5, let me either answer some questions if there are any, or let's turn it over to Dan and he can show you the stuff he knows how to do.
I have a couple questions.
Okay, lay them on me.
So under telescope in the settings and equipment, you can have your eyepieces and things like that in there. What use is that? Is there some way you can like see what the object's supposed to look like in all of these different eyepieces?
Theoretically, yes. I don't know how to do that.
That's what
but
I was going to
maybe
demonstrate.
Dan,
Oh, Dan's going to show it. Very cool. Because I've tried to do this, but I can't make it do anything. And it's like, okay, I put in all of my eyepieces and my telescopes, and it's like, you know, you click a telescope and then an eyepiece, or, you know, I guess Dan will show me.
yeah,
Thank you,
let's
Dan.
do that. So, other questions before we switch over to Dan, or is that all you got?
Oh, no, that's good enough. Thank you.
Okay, Dan, I'm going to unshare my screen and you can share yours and show us what you got.
Okay, let's see how this works first. This is all contingent on me being able to share the screen from my phone, because unlike you, I don't have an Android emulator or an Apple emulator, but let's have a look here. So I can go to Zoom and I can say share content. And I'm going to go to, now it should, oh, you know what? It's only going to share like my pictures and stuff. I can't switch between the apps the way that I normally do on in a Zoom meeting on my laptop, can I?
Huh. Well, do you have SkySafari up and running yet?
I do. You know what? I can just guide your hand if you want to bring SkySafari back up and just take you through the settings.
Okay, you might have to do that. But usually when you hit share screen, it gives you a list of all the things that are running.
Well, it says share content. Oh, screen. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. And so I should be doing a screen broadcast.
Not yet.
What do you see?
I still just see a bunch of people.
Yeah. This is the part we should have rehearsed. Hold on a second. Share content, screen, and then start broadcast. 3, 2, 1, there.
There you go.
Okay, yeah, there's my screen. In fact, I should turn it now.
Okay.
So what you're just seeing though, unfortunately, how can I click away from that? There we go. I'm sharing my screen.
Right.
Super.
Yeah, but I'm
now. Okay, hold on.
Ah, there it goes. Yay.
SkySafari.
Patience, grasshopper.
All right. Yeah, so there's going to be a little delay and I'm going to hear the echo of my own voice as we talk. You can see down at the bottom that it's connecting to my device. What it's connecting to actually is my my mount, which is nearby. So hopefully during my little spiel here, it'll connect to the mount and I can give a little bit of follow-up on controlling your telescope. But to Randy, the observe menu, yeah, this is really useful. I love this for when, well, it came in an immense amount of help for me doing the Messier Marathon the other night, because I'd be looking at a field of stars through my eyepiece and trying to say, okay, is that triangle near the little spot that I'm trying to find? And that's where scope display comes in handy. And so what you can do, so I've populated the scope display with every possible combination of telescope and eyepiece that I have. And so, Randy, what you need to do at the very bottom of this list, which you probably don't have anything in, is something that says add FOV indicator. So I'm assuming you mentioned earlier that you have already added your telescope and maybe an eyepiece or two. And so you'd say add field of view indicator.
I'm running 5 and at the bottom it says add Barlow to focal reducer.
Well, that's one of the options you can add. So that means what you need to do, let's go back. And I'm just going to say done, escape from this menu, if it lets me. There we go. And I'm going to go now to the settings. And there's, again, it's kind of a significant delay here. Okay, so under settings, you have a few things you can select here. One is at the very top is this is for the control of your telescope. My
Okay.
mistake.
No problem.
Yeah, let's go back to observe. The bottom of the observe is a field called equipment.
Right.
Now this is where things get kind of fun. So you can, this at the top there, I've got my list of telescopes.
So this is the area I was referring to.
Yeah, okay, so you need to select them, or you can also say add a telescope. Let's just add some, let's build our dream telescope here real quick. Let's give ourselves Takahashi, and someone call out their favorite Takahashi here. What's these letters and numbers here? What's a nice giant one that's hundreds of thousands of dollars? Here we go. 250 millimeter aperture. Nice. Okay, we're going to add that to my equipment. And then I'm going to exit out of this, and I'm going to add an eyepiece. Okay. I cancel out and go back. So, okay, so now you can see that the Takahashi 250 millimeter, aperture scope is there. And then I'm going to add an eyepiece. And I can add eyepiece, and let's give ourselves a I don't know, a Nagler, or some high end.
Oh, how about a 21 ethos?
Okay, an ethos. And there's an ethos 21 right there. So I'm going to add that to my equipment. Then I can say done.
Just making a Christmas suggestion there,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now my observe menu, in my scope display. So here, this is every combination of telescope and eyepiece that I have. If I want to now put together my dream telescope with my dream eyepiece, I can say add field of view indicator. And there it prompts me to say, okay, which telescope, the Takahashi, and which field of view, which eyepiece? How about that TeleView ethos? And then further down here at the bottom, do I have a focal reducer that I want to throw in there? Maybe it's a binoscope. I don't. So I'm just going to say that's the TeleView ethos through the Takahashi. Both of those have been check marked. I can say done. And now when I say observe and I ask for the scope display, I'm going to deselect my lowly C11 Celestron with its stuff. And down here at the bottom, in the order that I just added it, is the new SCT Takahashi with the ethos 21, and I select that. Then when I say, and by the way, you also down below, you need to make sure that it will show that field of view, even if you're not connected to the telescope. This is kind of something that's linked a little bit to the telescope control function of SkySafari, which is sort of part 2. But so there, now I've added it, and you want to make sure that I've deselected. I'm going to reselect it there. So
I think part of my problem is 5 doesn't show me that.
Right.
That
Randy?
field of view display option is not an option on mine.
Randy, if you go down under settings to the telescope heading where it's got setup display and equipment.
Right, it's under display.
Yeah, it's under display.
Okay, show even if not connected to the telescope. Okay,
that's right.
Okay, so I have that selected, but I still never see what I'm trying to look at.
Okay, if you go up to you should have your fields of view there with your telescope and each eyepiece that you've got input.
Right. If I have to turn those on, right?
Yeah, you select that.
Mm-hmm.
And then where is the circles? It should provide you a circle that is the size of your eyepiece field.
Yeah.
Okay. So we kind of like a TELRAD circle sort of thing.
Yeah, except it's customized for each eyepiece that you have, so you know, okay, this object is, if I put this exactly in the center, then the next one is right outside the field of view or something like that.
Right. Cool.
That's,
well, I'll have to play with that. Thank you very much.
yeah,
Thanks,
I
Dan.
was going to say that.
Thanks,
so
Andy.
You should be able to select your combination of scope and eyepiece. And then when you zoom in, I'm not seeing it here. So, okay, I'm obviously of no help to myself here because I am not seeing the field of view indicator that I have just constructed for us. I
You
don't know if I
have-
could do a
Try
restart.
going,
for it.
try going up to the top right corner of your screen and tapping on the field of view indicator there and seeing if there's something you need to turn on in that little drop down.
Well, yeah, that's up here, and that just turns them on in the order that of the first three in the list. So if I
Okay.
select and this, but for some reason I'm not getting a field of view indicator at all. And you know
No.
what? That is because I'm connected to my telescope. If you can see down here, in fact, these arrows as I push them are moving the scope around behind me. That's going up, down, left, right.
Okay.
But we are not, yeah, I bet that this thing is a little confused because it's listening to the Wi-Fi from the scope and presenting to you guys. This is probably not the best forum to do the demo. Oh, wait, hold on. I can actually see it moving. We should see it moving across the screen, but
Yeah, it does move.
all right. I tell you what, I'm just going to disconnect my scope though. Down here. So there's a function that allows you to connect your
There
telescope,
it is.
line
Just
it.
popped up.
Yeah. Now you've got your field of view indicator.
There's my field of view indicator. So now here's my scope display. Yeah, and so earlier I selected the top three. There's my new Takahashi, and my field of view indicator should be there. It is in the middle.
Yep.
Mhm.
Very cool.
So this is what I would see through the eyepiece, as
Yeah.
I'm looking. So if I'm looking for that thing, the PGC 23658, I'd be looking for that little, band of yellow stars around it and so forth. For
Right.
some reason, it robs you of the field of view indicator when it's in the go-to mode, which is actually kind of annoying because that's
Oh.
when you,
That's when you
Well,
need it.
well, it's technically it's when you don't need it if you're well aligned, but I would like it in both cases. That's something I might write and ask about.
Mhm.
Okay, so what I've done before this is connect my mobile phone to the Wi-Fi that is inside my mount. And in fact, many mounts have an aftermarket Wi-Fi as a dongle you can plug into the auxiliary port, and it just shows up as an available Wi-Fi network. So in advance, I've done that, and now I'm just going to tell it to connect, and it'll take a few seconds. It was supposed to use, again, I wanted to use that time to show you the connection to the eyepieces and so forth, but yeah, for whatever reason, it's not going to let us do those simultaneously. So in a moment, it will be connected. And then what I can do, in fact, I bet I could point my camera down here at the mount. Is that it there? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
cool. And it is now connected. So what it will do, so I haven't aligned it to anything, but I'm just gonna, it thinks that it's looking the direction I've selected here. So if I tell it to go to the Orion Nebula, I've selected that on my screen just by touching, and then I will just say go to, and it will drive there. So if you can see that the
Yeah.
things that
So it's kind of like
at a distance, right?
it's kind of like my Sky Commander, but it's all in SkySafari.
That's right. And it's operating indoors. And now I can zoom in, and it's the only thing it's showing me though is just the selection tool. That's not the field of view in my new Takahashi scope with the Nagler. So I'm a little disappointed in that. But back to this function. This is kind of neat because it has not just this go-to function. On the front end of it is the operation of the plate solving camera unit, and that's something that comes up under the align menu. And so if I were to tell it to align itself to the Orion, so say that I had manually aligned it and then stuck the Orion Nebula Center, I can tell it to align, or I can under align, I can let's see, back to when I connected, I can say connect and align. And then it will just drive around looking for objects in the sky and orient itself. And that's one of the neater functions that some of these modern scopes have, in that they can just drive around, and there's a camera that bolts onto the top, takes a series of pictures of the sky, and then orients itself in time and space to where you are and what's in the sky then.
Amazing.
And so if you look, you can see it says that it has not aligned to anything yet. So I just tell it to enter, and it will just, there we go, use the on-screen button. I need to find a bright star. Oh, this is not doing the auto align. You know what? The reason it's not offering me the auto align is that I didn't connect the camera. The camera's not in the garage. It can tell when the camera is attached. So it wants me to go to a bright star or two, and then then I can say enter, and it will align to those stars once I've named them. That's not as automated as I was going to show today, but
And it's doing all this without looking through the eyepiece, correct?
it's doing all this without looking through the eyepiece.
Amazing.
That's the neat thing. I demonstrated this in the Science Factory last year. I guess we had a talk like this, and I brought my scope in and I put the camera on it and took everyone through the steps in kind of the same forum, in the last few minutes of Jerry's SkySafari talk. And it was a little more effective then because I was able to actually pretend that the camera was there and it looked up at the stars inside the planetarium. And
Right.
but here you can only do the sort of quasi manual alignment. So I'll pause there, tell it to cancel. But really my point in this was to show that in addition to entering all of your own personal equipment so that you can find something in the field of view, which is one of my favorite functions. And this is actually, Jerry, I wish I had seen your talk before last week, because I would have had a much easier time orienting myself to these objects by giving them a location in the SkySafari, because I had to sort of just do each one by the search function and then center it, and then zoom in, and just like you were showing earlier, okay, let's turn the star magnitudes down so I can kind of get a better idea of this little cluster that I'm trying to find. And then this would be the field of view in my C11 through my 56 millimeter Vixen eyepiece. Or the next thing I would do is search for, I guess we were looking at, say, M72, or M74 rather, before it's set. And I'd center that up, say center, and then I would zoom in and look for these stars in the vicinity, up here, down there.
Right.
And try to orient myself. And I found 92 objects this way. I was still kind of cheating because I'm using the electronics and a laser pointer and so forth, but it was incredibly helpful.
That is not cheating for a Messier marathon at all. That's the way it's done.
But that said, the next step, if you're into the automation, this software has it doesn't just connect to Celestron hardware. It will connect to any automated go-to mount that has Wi-Fi capabilities.
Let me break in and also say there's an intermediate step, and that is Lauren Wingert has added just encoders to the altitude and azimuth axes of her telescope, and you connect the encoders via wireless to SkySafari, and SkySafari will tell you where the telescope is pointed. You still have to push it around, but once you align it, it becomes a visual push-to telescope.
So here's another neat function, Jerry, that I wanted, that I thought of a moment ago while you were giving your talk on the search function. So if we go to the Orion Nebula, say we search for that, and I select it, normally what you would do is you would say center, but if I just exit from here, somewhere it has, Orion, select. Okay, so I can center to the Orion Nebula, I can back away. And then if I want to find out where in the sky it is. And here's where the compass function comes in handy. And you kind of glossed over it a moment ago, but for me, it's the most useful thing. I select compass, and now I'm just panning around with my my camera, and I'm looking for it. I wonder where it might be. So I'm just going to say down here at the bottom, locate next to the compass. And then do you see that arrow?
Oh, yeah.
It's telling me, oh, it's over there. Keep going left, Dan. Keep going left, left. And then a little up, and oh, look, lo and behold, And this was actually, this, to be honest, was the functionality that got me the objects. You know, the search followed by locate, followed by zoom, and then eyepiece view. Those 4 functions I did over and over. Search, locate, eyepiece, you know.
Right.
And, but the locate piece is really kind of nice because unlike you, I don't know east, west, you know, what part of the sky a constellation might be. It'll just say that it's centered and I'd have to kind of look around. That arrow is actually pretty slick. So that's another piece that I like.
So locate just pops up when you have the compass on, right?
Correct. If you have selected an object. So you have to select an object, you know, that you're interested in finding, then switch to compass, then switch to locate.
Right.
And
Okay.
I've lost 25 people in the last 5 minutes of blabbering here. So I'll pause there. But
That's great.
yeah.
I've learned a couple of things just now. That's great.
This is really interesting from both of you. I mean, it really is.
And
Well,
the
it
thing
was-
about this program is it is so powerful. You know, I'm sure that there are things that none of us know about that this thing will do. I've been using it for 4 or 5 years and I'm still learning stuff about it.
Dan, can you show the locate arrow again?
Yeah, I'm doing that now.
Oh, right there. Yeah, I see it.
Anybody see the locate arrow?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, so if I turn over here, you know, and I'm in my living room, of course, but I'm going to point over at the northern part of the sky, and it's saying, you know, you need to go back. It's just further west than that, and then it'll up. And anyway, that functionality was very, very useful.
I use that function a lot too.
Plus, it's fun just watching Dan spin around.
Yeah. All right, I'll come back to normal mode here. Yeah, so I've been actually on double duty. I'm using my phone for the audio and computer to see you guys. So I'll
This is great.
come
So
back to this.
somebody did mention, you know, they wanted to know what the various versions cost. I saw that come up on the comment or on the chat. So the basic version's like $3 or so. It's very cheap.
Yeah.
But it just has a few things in it, you know, Messier objects and, you know, some of the major stars and stuff. The middle version, I think, is $15. And it's pretty good. But once you really get deeply into doing a lot of observing, it's not quite enough. So for $40, you get, you know, a couple 100,000 stars and, you know, all the NGC objects, all the IC galaxies, all the PGC galaxies. You get pretty much everything.
And a couple times a year, it goes on sale for 50% off.
That's right. So if you wait a little while for $20, you can get, you know, the full version. And the thing is, when they upgrade to a complete new version from like when version 7 comes around, you can't upgrade for cheap. You have to just buy it again. They treat it as a brand new program and you have to buy it again. But, you know, wait for it to go on sale, spend $20, you got the new version. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah. And in fact, Jerry, it was when you announced to the group on the mailing list, the last time it went on sale, that's when I got the upgraded version for half off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they do it about yearly.
Yeah, I think so. And they're talking about version 7 is going to be coming out fairly soon.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm just learning 6.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I feel. You know, honestly, I still keep version 3 around because it has some features that they took out in later versions, including a gyroscope mode that lets you point your gadget at a part of the sky and then hit the gyroscope and then move the gadget around. So if the compass is off, which it usually is, you can find an object and go from there to another object by using the gyro. But they removed that because people were getting confused between gyro and compass. So you know, I use version 3 because it's the only one that still lets me do that. And then I use version 5 because all my observing lists are still in version 5. And I've never bothered to transfer them over to version 6.
I did link to their website
Toggle
in
between
the chat.
the two. I'm sorry.
What's that?
Jerry, do you toggle between the two programs? 3 and 5?
Mostly I use 3 when I'm actually going to do a search for something. I use 5. I think 5 is the one that I leave on the iPad running most of the time. And I use 6 when I want to use one of their hot new features that 5 doesn't have.
I would highly recommend hanging on to version 6 even after version 7 comes out, because the developer has moved on,
Yeah.
and who knows what the functionality of version 7 is going to be for at least a little while after it comes out. So I would continue to hang tight with version 6 even if you do get version 7 on top of it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's the same engine as the freeware that's offered by Celestron called Sky Portal. And
Right.
that's just it's a dumbed down version of it, but it has all the same scope control and you know, a lot of the objects, all the big, you know, big ticket items. And so Sky Portal is the in my opinion, the best freeware version of SkySafari. It's just been licensed by Celestron, but that is also freeware that won't expire or, you know, throw ads up at you or anything. It just has fewer stars and fewer functionalities. It's probably more like one of the older SkySafari programs.
Probably so, yeah. I wonder if it still has the gyro function.
I can tell you, I don't know. Yeah, it's the one that I used for the first, you know, couple of years. I had a go-to scope, and then I discovered you could use SkySafari to control your scope. No, I don't have. Obviously I haven't kept it up on my phone, so I must not care that much about it.
Yeah. And one other thing is, if you buy a version and remove it from your phone, you can always put it back on. You know, I can still download version 3 even though they're not selling it anymore, because it's in my Apple Store queue, I guess you'd call it.
There's
The
SkySafari.
SkySafari website I linked to in the chat, and it gives a good comparison. You have to click on the little bar, but there's a bar to compare all 3 versions, and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's just an awful lot more stuff in the Pro version.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's pretty much all I've got. Anybody else have anything more to add or?
Well, I just want to say thank you very much, because I missed the one that was at the planetarium, and this rocks. It's my birthday, and you gave me a great birthday present today.
Oh,
Hand down.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. It was awesome.
Looking forward to seeing you out there again one day.
Yeah, me too.